Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Face to Face. My name is Godfred Akoto Boafo. My guest today is a member of parliament of several years standing. One of the youngest to enter parliament, he's also one of the youngest to hold several ministerial portfolios in the NDC government. Today he's the member of parliament for Woku Central and has caused a bit of a hornet's nest in this country with a challenge of immunities for parliamentarians. Mahama Ayariga is my guest today on Face to Face. Honorable, welcome to Face to Face.
Thank you.
I am sure this is not how you wanted to start this sitting of Parliament, being in the news, being portrayed as a person who is using the Parliament of this country to evade the laws of this country.
Well, the situation presents itself, and then you deal with it as it comes. The issues with Martin Amidu and the Special Prosecutor's Office didn't start on Tuesday. It's been on for close to a year now. And so I'm sure the public also have known for quite some time now that I've been under the radar of the Office of Special Prosecutor. Of course, matters got to a head on Tuesday, but it's not something that I was not expecting or ready for. So it presented itself, and I thought it should be dealt with in the way that our Constitution and the laws, provide for. Unfortunately, the impression out there is that it's something to do with the judiciary, that I was affronting the authority of the judiciary. That is a very, very erroneous misrepresentation. First, because the court had not served me with any summons.
I find that hard to believe. You were in court on, when was it, Tuesday?
Yes. I was actually served the summons in the courtroom.
Did your lawyers make this known to the judge?
No. I mean, the judge has it on record, because what happened was that I was in Abuja during the recess, and I learned that they brought summons to I didn't even know this until somewhere on Monday. Okay. They brought summons to Parliament, and then the Clerk of Parliament wrote back to them saying that under the Constitution you cannot serve a Member of Parliament here in Parliament. So take your summons back and then look for him wherever he may be, check from his constituency if he's there, and serve him with the summons. And they did not make any effort to serve me. I don't know if the judge knew this. So at the time when the judge was sitting and ordering that I should come, her court had not served me with any summons. So legally speaking, there was no basis for me to be there. But my lawyer was there. Out of respect, I said the lawyer should be there. And then out of respect, we had filed processes challenging even the charge sheet that the Office of Special Prosecutor had filed. So it wasn't in defiance. I'm not the person to defy the judges of this country. I have so much respect. As a lawyer, I mean, we are trained to respect the bench, so I will not. But also we are trained to ensure that procedural regularity is respected and complied with. So that was one aspect of the issue. The other aspect of it really was basically constitutional, which is to say that the Constitution provides some limited immunity, if we may describe it that way, limited immunity to Parliament, the same way that it also provides limited immunity to the court, to the judge who was sitting that day. She also enjoys some limited immunity. At the time she was sitting, no authority under the sun could come there and pull her out of the courtroom. Basically, no authority under the sun, under our Constitution, could have entered the courtroom and pulled her out of the courtroom, because she enjoys that level of protection under the Constitution to sit there independently and then preside and come to her decisions. The same way that the Constitution provides absolute immunity to the president. Even if the president committed any crime, I hear people on radio say, so if a member of parliament, should knock somebody and kill him on his way to parliament, I say we cannot serve a process on him. The constitution says so. If the president should knock somebody in traffic and kill him, not only can we not serve him with a process, we cannot even prosecute him for the period that he is president, and then several years after he's president, you still cannot prosecute him. That's what the constitution says. And if people have a difficulty understanding the concept of immunity, WikiLeaks in London, in the UK, they are looking for him. He runs into the embassy of Ecuador in the UK. The UK government, with all its naval power, her royal armed force, cannot go and pull him out of the embassy because under international law, immunity is given to the embassy of any country in another country. So as we speak, if you take a gun right here and shoot me and shoot her, and then they are chasing you and you run into the American embassy here at cantonments, and the embassy people open their gate and you enter and they close it, unless they give you out, even though cantonment is not far from Burma camp, you can't march the soldiers from Burma camp to come and take you out of the place, because under our constitution and international law, which our constitution respects, that space enjoys immunity. So the same way our constitution says that from 10 o'clock in the morning, when the speaker says parliament has started, to when parliament, adjourns, in this house, as I'm sitting here, as a member of parliament, nobody should be able to force me out. I'm sitting here and monitoring what's happening in the chamber. If there's a vote and they ring the bell, come and vote, I'll quickly run in and vote, and then come out and sit here and have a conversation with you. But I must be within the precincts, so that when there's a vote and they ring the bell that there's a vote, we all run in and vote. Because the Constitution doesn't want to create a situation where people can use all sorts of machinations to drag MPs out and reduce one side in order to enable the other side to have a majority and to vote and pass a legislation against the will of the people. Because the will of the people is reflected in the composition of parliament. The people voted MPP in the majority and voted NDC in the minority. So at all times, the will of MPP in this country, which I believe should be consistent with the national interest. Is that okay? And what is the national interest? The aggregate of all of us. And the majority have said MPP should serve the national interest, and the majority, and we too should serve the national interest as a minority. So if you allow a situation where, let's say that this house, the composition 203. Let me give you an example. Let's say the composition of this house is 203, and there's an election, and NDC wins 103, and MPP wins 100 seats. Then let's assume that President Akufo-Addo wins and becomes president, and he nominates his ministers and brings the ministers to parliament. And then the MPP, who are 103, and the NDC are 103, and MPP are 100. The NDC members say, we'll vote against all your nominees. None of them will pass as minister. You won't have a minister to work with. If we allow this arrangement that I can be dragged to court at the time when parliament is sitting, all that President Akufo-Addo will do, or any president will do, is to get the AG's department to level some frivolous charges against 5 NDC members of parliament. And on the day that they want to vote on the nomination of the ministers, they will say, you have been summoned to come to court that morning.
Isn't that an extraneous interpretation of these articles, though, to think that it can be put only to negative use? That is why we have these.
Yeah, that is why we put in place those mechanisms, because in the past, they have been put to negative use before. And that is why the system has been designed that way. It has been based on historical experience. Let me show you, in this country, there was a time when the constitution of this country said, if you don't come to parliament for 15 days, you lost your seat automatically. And then there was a law, Preventive Detention Act, which also said that the interior minister could detain anybody. That's how come J.B. Danko and co. were detained under the Preventive Detention Act. The interior minister could detain anybody. for suspecting that you were planning or likely to be involved in some subversive acts. Now, under that kind of arrangement, do you know what could happen? The same interior minister will arrest you under the PDA and keep you there for 15 days. Then, on the 16th day, the same interior minister will come to the floor of parliament and raise an issue of constitutional violation and say that the MP has not been attending parliament for 15 days. And therefore, his seat is vacated. And he loses his seat. Then they'll go and do a by-election. And then they'll win that seat and they'll come back and offset the parliamentary balance. So people shouldn't just say, oh, that is an extreme. No, it happens. It happens. And when you are making laws, you always have in mind what a bad man can do. If a bad man is given the opportunity, what can he do? And if your design is to prevent the bad man from being able to achieve his evil ends, then you design a system that foresees the likelihood that one day a bad man might be sitting as president with another bad man sitting as speaker. If they collude, what can they do? Are you getting the situation? Okay. How can they upset the democracy of this country? Let me give you a typical example. Just last week, in Sierra Leone, they have an electoral law that says that if there's an election and let's say 3 candidates contest and one candidate emerges as the majority, the winner, and then he goes to parliament and then his qualification to have contested is challenged and the court declare his election null and void or declares him incapable of incapable of contesting in the first place, then person with the next highest votes automatically becomes the member of parliament. So in Sierra Leone, when they held the elections, the ruling party, the party that emerged as the ruling party, had a minority in parliament. I think 45, 46 seats. Then the opposition, party that turned out to be the opposition, had 68. So the ruling party members sent about 24, 23 members of the opposition party to court. And just last week, the High Court ruled against 15 of the opposition party members. And in the process, they disqualified them, declared that by-elections would take place, I think, in 5 of the seats. And then the other 10 fell into the category where automatically the next candidate with the highest votes will take over. So overnight, the ruling party became the majority in parliament, and then the opposition became the minority in parliament. Overnight, they just got 10 seats. So you have a situation where there was an election. The total voter population was 20,000. The opposition party candidate got 14,000 votes and won. Then the ruling party candidate got 6,000 and lost. Then they go to court and disqualify him. Then the person who got 4,000 automatically becomes a member of parliament and will sit in that parliament for 5 years. How absurd. Are you getting the point? Yes. So people, should figure out that Ghana is being praised all over the world for the stability of our constitution and our governance system because of the way we have designed it. We've designed it in such a way that it's so difficult for you to abuse it to a point where people will begin to resort to unconstitutional methods for redress. And that is what causes, an upset of any constitutional order.
Your actions have set into motion a chain of events. Now, the judge says you must make an appearance, but we've also heard from the Attorney General's office who are saying that henceforth they are going to make sure that if there are processes to be served against members of parliament in court, it is done on days that are suitable to the members of parliament. But when it comes to parliament itself, we seem to have a bit of division. Now, your side says that they will pursue this to the Supreme Court, if possible, to get an interpretation of the various acts. we've spoken to the majority leader as well, whose position on the matter is that perhaps we could hold off on that and could have found an internal arrangement where the judiciary and the legislature could sit down and find a middle line with this. Where are you in all this? Based on all these are outcomes of you, Mahama Ayariga, deciding to test the law a bit.
Well, I mean, I think that by virtue of my training as a lawyer, and of course, having sat in this house for more than a decade, I owe it a duty to my fellow countrymen and women that whatever opportunity exists for us to be educated on our Constitution, we use that occasion to highlight important constitutional arrangements and the value to the stability of our democracy. So I won't shy away from, standing my grounds and insisting that this is what the Constitution says, and we must all respect it. You may like parliamentarians, you may dislike parliamentarians, you may question why parliamentarians should enjoy a certain privilege, but the Constitution says they enjoy the privilege. And this is, in my opinion, really not a standoff with the judiciary. It's not a standoff with the judiciary. In fact, at the time that I said I was not going, there was no specific order from the judge to me, because the summons had not been served on me. And it's the summons that constitutes an order from the court inviting me. But there was no summons served on me. When I decided that I would go, it was because my lawyer had communicated to me that the judge had opened her mouth and uttered that, tell your client I want him in court. So at that point, there was actually a directive from a judge. And I, being somebody who is a lawyer and will obey and respect a judge, even if I have an objection, I will come to the court and raise my objection. So I have never disobeyed a judge. The judge can check her records. She will see that at the time she was sitting, I had not been served. I challenge, she should check her records. I had not been served. They brought it to Parliament when I was in Abuja, and the clerk returned it to them saying that you can't serve a member of Parliament through this Parliament. Under the Constitution, it's not done. The person will simply come to court and set aside the service. I hope you understand the situation.
Yes.
So find some other way of serving. Look for him in his constituency or wherever he may be, but not here in Parliament. And it was returned to Parliament. And I arrived on Sunday. And then Monday, I served notice that I served notice to the Office of Special Prosecutor, not to the court, because I had not been served yet. So I had no basis for even communicating really to the court. But then, in spite of all that, we also, having known that there was this matter in court, got my lawyer to go and file some processes. And then I asked the lawyer to be in court when she mentions the case and to let her know that I was in Parliament. And that is why I was not physically present in court. The judge is presumed to know the law. The judge is presumed to know the law. So the judge is presumed to know both Article 118 and Article 122. So even if the Speaker's letter said, I'm writing pursuant to Article 118, because the judge is presumed to know the law, I presume that the judge also knows that there is also an Article 122, which says that I cannot obstruct a member of Parliament in the discharge of his or her duties as a parliamentarian. And so she would have said, okay, when do you think your client can come? And then the client, my lawyer will say he will come on Monday, because I told him to tell her that as for Monday, anytime on Monday you need me, I can come. Or any other time when Parliament is not sitting, I can come. By the time when Parliament is sitting, I won't be able to come, because it could be a ploy to take me outside Parliament so that important votes can be taken on the floor of the House, and I will not be there to vote.
But then, hold on. A very lively conversation with the Honorable Mahama Ayariga on the circumstances that have seen him appear before court and what is leading to an impasse between himself and Parliament, for that matter, and the judiciary. Face to Face will be right back after this break.
Every weekday at 8 p.m., City Newsroom brings you analysis of the major news stories of the day. In-depth, comprehensive, and researched. It's 1 hour of local and international news from 8 to 9 p.m. It's the City Newsroom. Weekdays on City TV. Tune in to The Point of View, Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 p.m. as Bernard Avlet takes the news further. He will bring the right guest, ask them the relevant questions, and get you the real insights you need on the big stories for the day.
That's not what we're saying. If you're telling me that, the security were not quick enough to stop people from getting on the stage.
What do you think we're saying?
And then I will tell you again that there have been instances where the security have been quick enough to stop. This was not a normal situation. We all need to rise up as men and face it. That is what you are refusing to realize, my brother. This was not a normal situation.
The Point of View with Bernard Avlet, Monday and Wednesday nights, only on City TV. Point of View is brought to you in association with the Stanbic Bank. Moving forward.
Welcome back to Face to Face. There are those who have also said that this also could derail the search for justice for other persons, in the sense that, in your case, for instance, it is not just you, there's another person. What happens to how the case goes for that person as well? Because the longer the case goes on, that person's business could also suffer. That person also needs justice. But the person's justice is being delayed based on your timetable and the immunities that you enjoy.
But that is where the fallacy lies. Those who argue that we don't appreciate the law. The law says that you can charge me for any criminal offense. If you think that I committed the offense with another person, you can also charge the person. You have chosen to charge us together. You could charge us separately. You could. It's not compulsory for you to charge the two of us together. I can charge you separately in court for aiding and abetting him. Okay? And I can charge him separately in court for carrying out the substantive offense. Then I can come to court and prove that you aided and abetted him during the times appointed for your trial. And then I'll come during the time appointed for his trial to also prove that he committed the substantive offense. So it is wrong to say that, if I am carried through my normal schedule, that it will amount to doing injustice to the other person. No, nobody has asked the special prosecutor to put all the people together and then charge them. He made that choice. He made that choice. He should have known.
Interestingly, the speaker made a ruling the day before he went to court. It looks like he is reinforcing that from the information that we are picking up. What is the speaker saying now?
The speaker has agreed with my position 100%. He says no.
And this is in the days after?
No, the morning of the speaker's ruling was given the morning when we were leaving for, not the morning, afternoon actually.
Yes.
Around 1 p.m. when we were already in court.
Yes.
Because the speaker adjourned. When I raised the objections, he adjourned to go and prepare his ruling on my objection, my complaint on privilege. So when he returned, at that time, I had asked him for permission to go and attend to the judge's directive, because she had actually issued a directive and I didn't want to be seen defying the judge. So I wanted to go, even though I knew that her order too was not well founded on the Constitution. But I still felt that I should show her respect by going. So I asked for permission from the speaker to go. So he said I could go whilst he will also give his ruling. And he gave his ruling in my absence. And basically the speaker said that you cannot insist that a member of parliament should be in court at a time when parliament is sitting. The same way we cannot interfere with your work, you cannot also interfere with our work. And, you know, he has written a follow-up letter to the judge in which he has communicated to the registrar of the court that the judge should read Article 117, 118, and 122 together, and she will realize that she cannot insist that I should leave the business of Parliament and attend to her summons in court. That is his position as a speaker. And there's really no division in Parliament. The majority leader does not disagree in principle that the Constitution grants the immunity. What he disagrees with maybe is the approach. He says we should dialogue with the prosecutorial authorities and come to an understanding. And who are they? The Attorney General, the Office of Special Prosecutor, and any other body that is given powers to prosecute in this country. But an example of a dialogue that failed is that the Speaker actually invited the Office of Special Prosecutor to his office to have a discussion with them and say, look, the Constitution doesn't give you that power. You can't summon a member of Parliament on days when court is sitting. Can you invite the honorable member on a day that Parliament is not sit? And they said no. So how do you dialogue again? That means that they are challenging you in terms of the constitutional arrangement. And when there's that kind of challenge, the proper place is the courts. Okay. And so even the High Court judge really, under our Constitution, doesn't interpret the Constitution. She applies the Constitution, but she doesn't interpret it. So if there is some contest as to what the Constitution actually means, it has to go to the Supreme Court. So once the Office of Special Prosecutor doesn't accept the position of the Speaker, and we also don't accept the position of the Office of Special Prosecutor, okay? The proper person to determine that is the Supreme Court. So that is why we say, well, then let's go to the Supreme Court. So the Speaker has written a letter. I have given you a copy of the letter to read, in which he has reinforced his position to the High Court judge who is presiding in this matter, that this is the constitutional position. So I expect that we will send it to her, draw her attention on Monday when we appear in court, and we will invite her to rule again, whether having regard to the specific reference to Article 122, whether she still takes the position that she took. So I honestly, in all fairness to her lordship, agree with her ruling on Monday, on Tuesday. Her ruling was absolutely right. Her ruling was absolutely right, because the Speaker's letter that was sent to her on Tuesday made reference to Article 118. And 118 actually talks about summoning members of Parliament to court as witnesses, and that you can't do that, and that the Speaker's certification is conclusive evidence that Parliament is actually sitting. So because the Speaker's letter omitted to refer to 122, she was right in saying, well, if Speaker is writing pursuant to 118, then, you know, the honorable member is not being asked to come here as a witness. He's being asked to come here as an accused person. So 118 doesn't apply. But of course, if you recall, my earlier position is that the judge is presumed to know the law. So she should have known that 112 doesn't apply, but 118 doesn't apply, but 122 applies. So when we got back to the Parliament and informed the Speaker that this is the position of the judge, he said, okay, no problem. He writes a second letter, and this time he makes specific reference to 122, and then he says, send it back to her. So we are sending back a letter to the High Court judge.
This is a position your team will be pursuing fully on Monday.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We'll be drawing her attention, and if she grants our lawyers the opportunity, we will argue on the nature and scope of immunities granted to members of Parliament. And I think that the public should be made to appreciate that no member of Parliament is saying that any member of Parliament is above the law. No. In fact, Martin Hamidu has been investigating me for 1 year now. If I tell you the kind of things that he has done within that 1 year,
What has he done?
Even you will object.
What has he done to you?
Look, there was a day when I was sitting in this same Parliament, in the Chamber of Parliament, and his investigators called me. I said, I'm in Parliament. They said, you must leave Parliament and come. I said, I'm in the Chamber of Parliament. What do you mean? I said, no. You can't sit there and say you are in the Chamber of Parliament. You must leave Parliament and come. So I said, no problem. So I got up, drove my car, went to the office, sat there. You know, so they've done worse things that I have not challenged.
Let me ask you this.
Because I just thought that they are looking for the truth, so go and tell them. I hope you understand.
Yeah.
So why don't you have a problem? Go and tell them. But then I realized that no, if we keep doing that, people don't know that there's a constitution. And people don't appreciate the fact that there's a whole procedure, that Parliament has its own set of immunities and privileges, and that whatever you are doing, you must have regard to those ones. Some people just fear coming out to stand for the right thing because they feel that the public will be up against you, people will condemn you, all the radio stations. Me, Mahama, Ayariga, I was information minister before, and there were days when from morning till evening, everybody on radio is attacking and lambasting. I've lived through these ones. So for me, it is not. I believe ultimately that when the truth comes out, when the truth is pronounced, I mean, people will see that I'm right. And whoever it is that is saying, you know, unpleasant things about me will probably be apologetic at that point, but would have also learned through the incident that this is what the law of the country is.
So you are in no doubt in your mind that you've done nothing wrong in this matter?
Absolutely. Trust me. In terms of the procedure, I'm 100% right, and the speaker, who is also a seasoned lawyer, 100% right. And I don't fault the judge. And I'm saying I don't fault the judge because in court, we did not draw her attention to 122. So if the objection was based on 118, the judge was also right. I hope you understand the situation. So I don't fault the judge. She was 100% right because the speaker's letter at that time only referred to 118, which only dealt with inviting MPs to be witnesses. But then there's a second letter from the speaker drawing her attention to 122. So on Monday, let's wait and see how she responds to the second letter. That is when I will then be in a position to assess and judge her. But for now, I think she was 100% right. Okay. But then the speaker is also 100% right. And I'm equally 100% right. And I'm 100% convinced that if we go to the Supreme Court will be clear that we are also 100% right on the matter. And let me state that it doesn't mean that a member of Parliament cannot be arrested. No. You can be arrested if you're at home. You understand? You can be arrested if you're at home. You can be arrested if you submit yourself. The officer of special can call me by phone. Are you willing to come even when Parliament is sitting? I can decide that I will come when Parliament is sitting and submit myself.
Thereby waiving your rights.
By waiving my rights. So I have to waive it first. And even in waiving it, I need the permission of the speaker. I need to get up and tell Mr. Speaker, I've been invited by this person and I want to waive my right. I want to go. And he will say, okay, I grant you permission. Or he'll say, no, I'm not going to allow you to go because there's a vote that is going to be taken. And I'm sure you have gone to chop bribe and you don't want to participate in the vote. So you want to use the invitation as an excuse to go away so that when your side loses, you say you were not there because you had been invited. Are you getting all the dynamics? So I won't let you to leave this chamber. Sit and vote. After the vote, you can go. If the vote takes place at the time when the judge has adjourned, where will I be going to? So there are all sort of, dynamics. A member of Parliament can be tried on Mondays. On Mondays. I mean, if the special prosecutor had invited me to come to court on Monday, I would have gone. But he chose Tuesday, and I'm saying Tuesday, Parliament is sitting. Why don't you wait till the next Monday? And it's big noise. Why? I hope you get the point.
I get you.
And people should not forget that Parliament doesn't sit the whole year. Parliament sits sometime for just 2 months. This session will end in 2 months' time. And then we may be on recess for, let's say, 2-3 months or 1 month. Sometimes we're in recess for 3 months. So if you want to try somebody, that 3 months period, you can try the person and finish with the person if there are no obstacles in the way. So nobody's running away from justice. And trust me, let me say it here on your station, that I will prove my innocence. Is that okay? And get myself acquitted in the courts. Because the charges that the special prosecutor has leveled against me are baseless. They are not born on the evidence. And I don't want to say more. And when we go to court, I will establish my innocence. So we haven't gone to court yet. When we go to court and the public begins to get to know the full details of why I am being prosecuted, they will be shocked. They will be wondering whether that is why we established the Office of Special Prosecutor in the first place. But for now, I want us to deal with the issue of how I even get to court.
Okay. There are those who've said that it looks almost a bit personal between yourself and the special prosecutor. What do you say to that? That it goes beyond...
Special prosecutor and
is it somebody you have a long relationship with? You know him personally?
Since I was born. Special prosecutor has known me since my birth. He's known my mother, my father, you know. So he was his whole life, he's lived it in Boku, where I also come from.
So you are his MP?
Yeah, I mean, he refers to me as a son, even on national television when he was being vetted.
Yes.
You remember, he referred to me as a son, and he said, this is my son. He knows, and on several occasions he's written and said, I'm his son, and he would treat me the way he would treat his daughter. And his children are my colleagues, and we talk, we have a relationship. We've known each other for long. We've worked together in Atamilso's government when he was special advisor to President Atamilso, and I was presidential spokesperson. This was his office, this was my office. He was my next door. So we have a relationship. If in the course of that relationship he has personal issues against me, I don't know. I don't want to comment on those publicly.
Okay. No problem.
But I believe that he probably believes that he is doing his work. But I'm only saying that you do your work according to law.
Okay. Face to Face will be back, and we'll enter into Boko to find out what is happening in his constituency.
For regular news checks as they unfold, 2020 news all day, all the time. Politics, sports, entertainment, business, and more. 2020 news. We bring you the world in 20 minutes. Get the backstory of the major news stories on press conference. Hear from the editors and reporters behind the biggest stories of the week.
Politics, democracy is expensive, that's a fact. I mean, it's not on the scale of what we do here, but also, whether you like it or not, there's a problem with it. But then also, I think, per where I said, that if the NDC wasn't in opposition, they may not have put this amount at this level.
Press conference every Sunday at 8 p.m. with Duke Mensa Opoku, only on City TV.
Welcome back to Face to Face. Let's talk a bit about Boko since you've brought that in. And it's a strategic place in this country considering where we are now. And questions have been raised about how security-wise Ghana needs to pay a bit more attention. You are a member of parliament of part of Boko, not everywhere in Boko, but what are you doing within your community to deal with some of these issues of terrorism fears and people crossing the border without being checked and whatnot?
I don't think they cross the border without being checked. All those who cross the border somehow get checked by the security agencies who are there. There's national security at the borders, there's customs, there's immigration and all sorts of people, and then they have the infrastructure to check and screen all those who are coming in and going out. So they are checked. Just that our boundaries, rather not our borders, our boundaries are very porous. I can actually walk across to Burkina Faso from my village. In the evening, I can just take a stroll and then cross into Burkina Faso without having to pass through the border, any checkpoint. I can ride a bicycle and go. I can ride a motorbike and go and come back, and I won't pass through the border and nobody will see me. So the boundaries are very porous, and there are people who live on one side and their farm is on the other side. You can't be checking on them every morning when they're walking to the farm. So that's the reality of our national boundaries. And people with the same ethnic background traverse the boundaries. So you can't just looking at somebody tell that he is from the other side, even by the way he speaks, because you have people on the other side who speak the same language. So those are the real challenges. Now, when it comes to security, I always say that the countries that tend to suffer a lot of insecurity, I think there's something essentially wrong with their governance systems. And very often, and I'm a member of the ECOWAS Parliament, and on the floor of ECOWAS Parliament, I have canvassed these views to colleagues from other countries that, you see, a country that doesn't have a democracy that is well structured, tending towards totalitarianism and exclusion of sections of the population, is creating very fertile grounds for rebellion, for insurgency, for resistance movements. And those dissidents, if you may call them, will resort to the use of violent mechanisms where other mechanisms are not open to them. Part of the reason why I have so much confidence in Ghana is that we have quite a democracy. We have quite a culture of human rights, even though these days I see some, increasing threats to that democracy. And we have a strong system of constitutionalism, which makes it difficult morally for people to want to resort to radical extremist, subversionist approaches to resolving the perceived alienation, marginalization, and etc. So for that reason, I have so much confidence in Ghana, and I have so much confidence in the people of Ghana. Threats to Ghana may not come from Ghanaians. Threats to Ghana will always, in my opinion, most likely come from outside Ghana into Ghana.
And your people are the most vulnerable.
And they will do so based on the outlook of our foreign policy. If they are aggrieved by the way we interfere in their countries. Is it really
the case, Honorable, these days?
Most likely, yes. Most likely, yes.
They need to be aggrieved?
Most likely, yes.
Is it not a case of they just finding the most vulnerable people and making an example?
No, they don't. They don't. I don't think so. Trust me. A few months ago, they actually came to the border at Kolungugu, near Boku. Across on the Burkina Faso side, they shot all the immigration officers and killed them. But they didn't dare cross over to the Ghana side to touch a single Ghanaian security agent. I hope you get the situation. So they know where they operate. They dare not. You see, they dare not. So I am very confident. And Ghanaians generally will protect their territory. All we need to do is to raise awareness. People should be on the lookout. People should report any behavior that doesn't look normal, so that we can all take collective action to defend ourselves, especially those of us living along the borders. So that's what I can say. Let's rather keep up with our democracy. Let's keep up with our constitutional arrangements. Let's be more inclusive in the run of our system. Let's share equitably the natural resources that we have. Let's share the tax that comes in equitably so that all parts of the country enjoy it. When you do that, you build national cohesion. I am in the ECOWAS Parliament, and some countries come and they report. And then I ask them, do you have something like a common fund where a portion of the national cake is distributed to all local governments so that they can at least meet their basic needs? And they don't have. I say, so when you don't have a thing like that, what happens is that the national cake comes, and those sitting in the capital share it among themselves, develop all the infrastructure in the capital, and then they leave out the outlying areas. And then the outlying areas become the breeding ground for Boko Haram, for terrorist groups, for insurgents, and etc. But in our system, a percentage of it must go to the outlying areas. And when they take it, they can drill their boreholes, they can build their schools, they can build their clinics, they can pave the roads, they can extend some basic electricity. And so they don't feel completely left out of the body politics of the country. And so they feel included. And so whichever village you are, somehow you see some extent of the presence of the state. And so you will defend that state. But if I'm here and, I never see anything, I don't feel I belong. Okay. And so if somebody can say, let's join me so that I'll fight them, our tendency to join is very high. So other West African countries, we keep telling them, and we are advocates at the ECOWAS Parliament, that you must redesign your system. Why do you think that any time that there's appointment of ministers and some regions are not included, we're all up in arms here and say, how come you haven't included Upper West? How come you haven't included Upper East? Because if you leave out Upper West, you leave out Upper East, and people of Upper East start feeling that this government doesn't consider us as part of them. It builds resentment. I hope you understand that. And you don't know where the resentment will carry them. So I will say that this is really what should happen. And I have been an advocate at ECOWAS telling my colleagues that we must develop model systems that we must compel every ECOWAS country to adopt. Because some countries have adopted them and they have helped to stabilize those democracies and countries. But unfortunately, half of us are Anglophone, half are Francophone, with one Portuguese. And because of that, you see the Francophonies tending to pay more attention to Francophone parliamentary democracy and practices. And the Anglophones also, lean towards American Republican and British parliamentary systems of democracy. And so it takes a lot of work, even convincing, either sides which are the best models to adopt. But I hope that we'll get there.
Okay. Now, the vigilantism bill debate has been ongoing for some time. What are your thoughts, though, basically?
Basically, if you ask me...
Because there are those, I've spoken to members of parliament who feel that it's not even necessary.
It's not. Trust me, it's not necessary. It's absolutely unnecessary. It doesn't add anything. And I honestly think that it infringes on certain fundamental human rights. And that is why I want to be in the chamber, and I will plead with you that let's end this session because it will be taken any moment from now. I think, and I'm very convinced about this, that basically it's an infringement on the rights of association of young people. It's an infringement on the freedom of expression of young people. And it is a threat to the organization of political parties.
Really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. See, crime is crime. Okay? Basically, what was the vigilantism about? It's because you have used the word vigilantism to describe them. You see, it's young people who have formed groups and they are vigilant about their political parties. And I don't see it to be an offense if we as young people form a group and we are vigilant about our political affairs.
Isn't it the manner of the vigilance that is a problem?
The manner where you use arms, where you use violent means. But you see, the use of arms and violence has already been taken care of in our criminal code. I hope you understand my argument. That is already provided for in our criminal code. So you cannot refuse to punish young people who go into National Security Officer's office in Kumasi and physically assault him and take him out. And then they are sent to court. Then they physically go into the courtroom and then pull them out using violence. And then you fail to allow them to be dealt with according to law. Then you come to us and say, let's pass a law called vigilantism. What guarantee do I have if I pass the second law when the same young people do the same thing that you will punish them? What assurance do I have?
So that is the apprehension.
Basically, it's not apprehension. It's just that you haven't shown a commitment to enforcing the law against these young people when they use violent means. It doesn't matter if you describe it anti-vigilantism law, because it's already in the criminal code that you can't forcefully go into National Security Officer's office and violently take him out. You cannot go into a courtroom and violently pull, accused persons out. It's already in the criminal law. What did you do about it? that you are now bringing me a new bill saying that I should make the same thing an offense. The same thing is already an offense, and you haven't shown a commitment to enforcing it.
All right, then. The Honorable Mahama Ayariga, thank you very much for your time. Member of Parliament for Boku Central. It's been exciting having you on Face to Face, and we'll bring you back in the course of the year when you have time, and perhaps we might not need to write to the Speaker of Parliament seeking permission.
Come when Parliament is not sitting, and you don't need a permission of the Speaker.
My name is Godfred Akoto. Thank you for watching this episode. Have a good day.